Welcome to the channel. In today's video, we are going to be going over a 1972 R75 that I had just purchased for my wife. It's going to be her first bike, so she's always wanted an Airhead, similar to the past R75/5 that you've seen in other videos. So we're going to be doing a series, kind of going over each individual maintenance point and kind of like what you guys should be looking for when you purchase a bike sight unseen, and we'll kind of go over the bike. I purchased this bike on Facebook Marketplace, actually, out of Tennessee, and then just had it shipped up here to Wisconsin. So I didn't have a chance to ride it or even really look at it. I just bought it and had it shipped up here, and now it's on my lift. So let's go over it together and we'll kind of talk about things that we should change, things that necessarily aren't correct, and just try to make it a safe, reliable, and just an all-around cool motorcycle.
So I'm really excited about this series. I have really always been interested in motorcycles, and especially learning from Kevin and watching him in the garage. I've never been particularly drawn to any specific motorcycle other than an R75/5. We had one last summer and I loved the bike. I just love how the engine sounds like a little sewing machine. That's what I have said in the past. So really excited to see this bike kind of start at this level and then move into something where I feel really comfortable and safe riding it.
This being my wife's bike, I want to make it as reliable and safe as possible. So kind of this whole video series that I plan on doing is going to be me and my wife kind of building this bike up and making it a super solid riding machine and returning it back to its former glory. Even though it looks like a nice bike, there's still a lot of things that can be done to it to make it even better.
So just a little background information. I took this bike out when it was first purchased, and really excited to take it for a ride. And what happened was a fuse blew multiple times, and then also I went to put my brakes on and it completely locked up the front brakes. So that was another issue that I experienced on one of my first rides. So just kind of going over the whole thing and making sure that everything is really safe and comfortable is one of my main goals.
What my plan is to do with this bike is just in like a 5 or 6 part video series going over, obviously this is the first video, but just kind of building a list of everything that we need to make this bike the best version of itself. Like some things on the bike that aren't super correct, like these cables obviously are old, the fork rubbers aren't cracked or anything, but they're probably original. But then there's other things like the seals in the blinker here are super dry rotted. Like the boots and stuff on these cables are all cracked up there. Up here you can see they're starting to, crack and dry rot. Like the washers around the headlight bucket, are crumbling, mostly because they're probably original to the bike in 1972. And the bike itself is in really good condition, but it's just little things like that kind of add up. And when you fix all those things, it's just such a nicer bike. So this is what we're going to be going over together, and this being my wife's bike, she's going to play a big part in working on it, and I'm going to be kind of playing the coach in the video series, and she's going to be doing most of the work. So follow along and let's build a list together of things that we need to buy in order to make this bike the best it can possibly be. All right, so I made a big giant list of everything that we're going to change in order to make this bike safe, reliable, and obviously like looking pretty darn good. Let's be honest here. So this yellow battery has to go. Yellow battery, got to get out of here. We're going to put a black battery in there. This battery is also kind of weak, and also on top of the battery, the yellow fuel line, we're going to put the correct cloth fuel line, and then going over obviously the engine oil, transmission oil, swing arm oil, and rear drive oil. The carburetors will be synchronized, ultrasonically cleaned, and all the hardware, if you come looking over here on top of the carburetors, just stuff like this that kind of, right there we have a Phillips, and over here we have a flathead. So just things like that that kind of drive me nuts, I should say. And so we'll replace these with the correct hardware, stainless steel, obviously. And the battery, the little rubber straps that actually hold the battery down. In here, of course, all the rubber is pretty cracked and dry rotted. So we have just one strap. The other strap must have fallen off. The fuel line coming around the other side here. So you can see on the hubcap on the wheel here, it's just really dented up. So it just kind of takes away from the look. So I got a new one of those. Obviously we're gonna replace all the cables, all the throttle cables, all the brake cables, every little rubber grommet, every rubber boot. So the fork gaiters, these headlight washers that we had talked about, the gaskets for the turn signals, coming over here, the hose clamps here. Just a lot of this stuff has like kind of surface rust on it. It came from Tennessee, so I don't know, but it has a little bit of surface rust. So, I mean, all these clamps, they're cheap, and it just really freshens up the bike when you replace stuff like that. The airbox bolt here, you can tell that that's not the correct bolt. That's not supposed to be a Phillips screw there. So we'll correct that. And then on top of that, like service points, we're gonna do the valves, adjust the rocker arm end play, replace the spark plugs. We'll replace the spark plugs wires, and the exhaust system here. This is an original 1972 R75 exhaust, but you can see down here the previous owner did lay it down. It's a little beat up there. So I'll get a new reproduction exhaust system for it, just again to kind of clean it up, brighten up the look. And these toaster panels could be refinished a little bit, but kind of like I said, just going over everything. So what my wife was talking about, she took it out for her first ride, and it actually was blowing this fuse that the previous owner had wired in. So normally these bikes don't have fuses, but it continuously was blowing this kind of homemade fuse that's electric taped. The whole harness is kind of taped up here. So I plan to replace every last wire in this bike. We'll replace the whole main harness. We'll do the engine harness, and then we'll come here behind the headlight and do all the wiring behind there. So every last wire on this bike will be gone through and changed. So this fuse kept popping, and it actually left her stranded. And I noticed that there was a burned wire there. So the other end of that, wherever that is up there, was actually rubbing on the frame and shorting out. And I believe it was blowing this fuse. So we'll get that rectified. And then there's other little things like the missing hardware for the gas tank there.
I'm just really excited to learn how to do the work. I haven't ever done anything like this before, so I will be learning along with you guys, and I hope this is a really helpful series.